Hello, everyone. Welcome to AGO from Home. This is Hot Takes with Dylan McKeever and Pearl Tees. I'm Annie Roper. I am the curatorial assistant of talks and partnerships here at the Art Gallery of Ontario. And Hot Takes is an approach to close looking that analyzes contemporary images in the media. We like to invite artists, performers, thinkers, the creative geniuses in our midst to discuss an image and decipher to better understand our current cultural and social moment. So today we have Dylan McKeever, who is a comedian living and performing in Los Angeles, California. Her work revolves around her queer identity, trans issues, race, sex, and dating. As a double earth sign, she enjoys dim sum, dog watching, and late afternoon naps, which I can relate to. You can follow her work on Instagram at dmakes. And then we have Aria Villahin, who's also known by her stage name, Pearl Tees. She's a proud Black and Filipina trans woman, drag performer, program coordinator, and advocate for a mental health organization in San Francisco, also a sister and friend. Born and raised in the Bay Area, Aria has been performing as Pearl Tees for almost 10 years. She continues to perform and curate shows at venues and events such as Asia SF, SF Pride, Strut SF, and due to the pandemic, online and in multimedia videos. Aria is graciously committed to her community and a passionate advocate for mental health, trans rights, and Black lives. You can follow her Instagram at Pearl Tees. And before we get started, we'd like to recognize that the land the AGO is on is Michichsagik Nishnawbe Territory, Mississauga. It is also governed by a treaty between the Mississauga of the Credit and the Canadian government. Toronto is Michichsagik Nishnawbe Territory. It has also been occupied by other Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and Wendat confederacies. This edition of Hot Takes and all our other fantastic AGO from Home programming will be available for your ongoing viewing pleasure on ago.ca and our YouTube channel, AGO Toronto. So with that, I turn it over to Dylan and Pearl.
Thanks, Annie. I loved the intro. I wish I was like such a seamless host like that, just so on it. Anyway.
I'm impressed too. You hit all the marks so quickly.
Right, so good.
So succinctly.
Hey, Dylan.
Hi, Pearl. You look really great.
I'm looking all right.
For a Thursday.
Yeah.
It's so nice to see you. We haven't seen each other in person in well over a year.
Well over a year.
But
with each other virtually a couple of times, and that's nice.
We have. It's been so nice. And I don't know if it was mentioned in your bio, but you also run Trans Voices, which is
yeah. Well, that was kind of mentioned. I curated over at Strut.
A great program, which I've performed on, and
that's actually how we met. Well, actually, how we met. So I was recommended to have you on our show, and I went to a live show of yours. I believe at Blush.
Yeah, well, that was randomly though, right? Like
randomly, yeah. I had no idea you were there.
And I actually just went to. I didn't even plan to perform that night. I just went to go support my friend Nick, who ran that show. And then we met there. I remember that. Yeah, your partner's there too, I think.
Yeah.
At the time, maybe. Yeah. How great. Right. And right next to Strut. So it's all connected.
Yeah. The community, the community. Speaking of which, there's not many trans comics like you in the city. I'm sure now that you're in LA.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely trans comedians, but none like me. Thanks for pointing that out. I love I'll take that as a compliment. Yeah, I was actually just talking to I was having a meeting, and I feel like a lot of the comedy I do is very like trying to like push the boundaries and play with what people expect from trans women. And a lot of times I feel like I'm standing on the shoulders of all these people who have done work to make like trans people more respected and like seen in society, and then I sort of run counter narrative, like a little brat is what I sort of feel like sometimes.
I love that. Like in certain ways, I feel like I do the same thing in with just like with my performance persona, you know, being out there and being able to dress however I want and be
Yeah.
however gently clad I want, and
Yeah, very fun. You
it is.
know, I think that's what is different is that we're out there having fun, you know?
Right.
And that's revolutionary, I think.
It is because once upon a time, you know, fun was not a thing for people, I guess. So
Things were different in the past. Speaking of, should we look at the image that we're going to talk about today?
you guys about some images and stuff. So let's go ahead
Yeah,
and put those up.
talking about the past. Ooh, there it is.
There's the past, I mean, and the presents, right? Well, we'll show you more present a little later, but here's the past, 2005, Time Magazine, Laverne Cox,
2014 actually.
2014.
Yeah, sorry, I think I might have said 2015 earlier, but I'm looking at the copy that I have, and it's 2014 summer. It's wild because this came out a year before the Supreme Court said that gay marriage was legal on the federal level. Isn't that wild to think that
Right.
it's
And
sort of like the progress is like staggered?
right, right. It's a trip because I mean, even with that being said, like for this to happen so soon after for trans people, I think some people don't realize that the how trans people are treated and like the laws that we have to protect us are not the same as gay people or you know other people that are lgb. So when seeing this on Time Magazine right after that was really incredible.
Yeah, for sure. I have a whole story about the first time I saw this image, but I want to hear from you first, I think. Like, do you remember like
I
where you were at and like what you were going through?
Right, so at this when this came out I had not started my medical transition yet, but I was already a performer. My best friend at the time had already started her transition. Um, so I had trans people in my life. Um, and I was still at the point where I was questioning whether I wanted to start medically transitioning or not. Um, just because that's a hard decision to finally start to make. Freeing
It
decision,
is.
but a hard decision, especially when you're not balling out of control like Miss Laverne is now.
Right.
Um, but when I saw when this came out, like it was really empowering because, like for me, questioning whether I wanted to start or not, I wanted people that were important in my life, like my siblings and stuff, to meet like my best friend and to meet our other friends, to know that trans people are regular people too. We're not just these terrible stories that they tell about us on TV and stuff, or Jerry Springer at the time and stuff, you know. So when she came out on Time Magazine, I just remember feeling very like lucky, lucky to see it happening, to see us being started to be seen as regular people.
Right. Yeah. Can you talk more about that? Like, how did it, like, emotionally, was it, you felt lucky and then,
Right, because I had something I can reference other people to, as opposed to, you know, just people I know. Um, you know, it's which is it's different having having representation in popular culture versus just people you know, because people can always say, oh, you know, well, that's you know, that's a lucky case for whatever the reason.
yeah. I mean, the visibility, right? Can I ask
Right.
you this? Were you uh pre-transition, did you present as like as a gay man or like
I was very androgynously
like
looking.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, like I would still I was getting a lot every time I would go into a men's restroom at the time. A lot of men would stop me, be like, excuse me, you're in the wrong restroom. And at the time, it's like, oh boy,
Yeah. You were already getting kicked out of bathrooms.
I was
But-
already getting kicked out of the bathrooms and I hadn't even transitioned yet. What?
yeah, but in sort of an affirming way, maybe.
I guess so. Whatever that, yeah.
But you were so you were sort of out in like a different way.
I
Like
was very, I was telling everyone I was genderqueer at the time. Yeah.
yeah, I was just talking to my ex about the past and how the term like gender fucker was
Yeah.
so popular in like the early 2000s. And
How did you present prior to your medical transition?
I was I was like a straight guy basically.
Uh-huh.
Well, I'll tell you the whole story. So similar to you, I was like questioning my gender and having like all this like sort of internal like turbulence, trying to figure things out. And I wasn't out to anyone when this came out, and it was sort of like astounding at the time when it came out, because I'm like, holy shit, like all the things that I'm going through and thinking about are like showing up in the world. And on this amazing cover of this magazine, I was actually at a doctor's appointment when I saw the copy, because that's where magazines are. And I actually stole it, and I still have it, which is right here.
I love that.
I should get it framed. It's from June 9th, 2014. I remember stealing it instead of. I mean, I could have bought it, but I think I was still like, I was so closeted. And I was actually like looking through the pages earlier.
Wait, did you steal it because you were closeted?
Yeah, I was like, I don't want to be seen like buying this copy. I don't know. It was a weird time in my life.
Yes, phobia.
Yeah, it was deep. But I was flipping through the pages of the article itself, and like a lot of it is it's a lot more about just like having sort of what you were talking about like showing like these different trans people and like their lives. There's a lot of stuff about the military, because that was like pretty controversial then.
Yeah.
And like it became really controversial in the United States. Like here, this person I think is a vet. So it was a pretty broad scope, while sort of like still keeping the focus on Laverne.
Might be off topic, but how do you feel about trans people in the military?
Conflicted.
Yeah.
Because the United States military is evil.
Same.
But at the same time, I'm like, it's like a lot of times our people don't have like a choice. It's like it's a way to get money and also like get out of their hometowns, and I don't know. So I don't blame anyone for joining the military.
Yeah.
It's just sad that that's like like a lot of cases like our best option.
I don't know if you remember or if you knew about this. I'm sure, I think everyone knew, but like when Donald Trump had first got presidency, the West Coast had started, there was talk about the West Coast seceding from the rest of the United States. Do you remember that?
Vaguely, yeah. Cascadia or something, I forgot what it's called.
What, California, Washington,
and
Oregon, and I think parts of Nevada. I don't remember.
We're gonna bring Las Vegas with us,
right? And we would be like our own thing, and I think that is something I would probably join the military for, because we would have had, I think, the rights that we would have had, that if that would have happened, would be so different from what we have now, I think. And I think that would be something worth fighting for. I don't know if I'd be I don't think what we have now is enough for me to put my life on the line.
Oh no, definitely not. But I mean, I also have like the privilege to have other options. So
yeah,
I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I was just flipping through the article, and it's also wild to see the amount of progress that's been made. Like a lot of this, like reading this 7-year-old article and seeing where we were at, and a lot of it is just sort of like arguing for like basic rights and recognition and like medical coverage. We've made a lot of progress and are still have like also fighting the same fights. It's sort of like a weird, like we're stuck in the past, but also things have changed a lot.
I'm sure can't everyone in Canada is like, y'all in the United States is still fighting for right, girl.
I bet they are. I bet they are. Just listening to that intro and like recognizing the land that the gallery is on, I'm like, they're just doing a lot better.
Yeah, I mean,
They didn't have their shit together.
right, completely.
You know, I'm sure the problems are different, but just on the basic level, I'm like, wow, Canada. I was during the Trump administration, I was like seriously looking at moving to Canada. And I remember going onto their like immigration website, and there were like two options. They're like, if you are like a queer refugee from a country that doesn't support you, and I'm like, we'll probably get there if Trump is elected again. And then the other option was like, if you move to Canada and live in one of these towns that has almost no people in it, like we'll grant you citizenship. And I was like, what if I just moved to the middle of just some snowy small town in
Just
Canada?
for citizenship, you know.
Yeah, and the healthcare.
Yes.
But I don't know. I don't know if I could ever actually leave here. But it was looking so grim. I don't know.
There was a time where anytime that, like, before we were able to have gay marriage and stuff, when that wasn't overturned and stuff, every time we would go through something like that, I'd be like, I'm moving to Canada. I'm leaving. I'm going to Canada every single time. But obviously it didn't happen.
Yeah, not yet. Who knows?
My best friend is actually moving to Canada next month.
Is she?
So, yeah.
Is she trans? Can I ask?
Yeah, she is. She was the best friend I was talking about that was trans when this came out.
Oh.
In Canada. Her partner's Canadian, so it's gonna be a little easier for her.
What a great life she's about to have. So yeah, I was thinking about, since this came out, like all the things that have happened for like the trans community, like it felt so personal. I remember when this came out, like seeing Live on the cover in Time magazine, and then I don't know, I feel like there's been so many things. I mean, the thing I always want to point to is Pose coming out.
Yeah.
I forgot how many years ago it was, but like 4 years ago, maybe.
I don't remember when Pose first came out, but we're in the final season. So for those of you listening, I also host a viewing party here in the Bay Area for Pose. For those of you who don't know what Pose is, it's a revolutionary show about us colored trans folk, and it tells our stories and stuff about these trans women in the ballroom scene, and I love the show. I think the show is definitely needed and incredible. So moving. Like I feel like in parts of it, I feel like I'm watching some of my own life.
Absolutely.
There is we briefly talked about this before, but the one thing about that is it's trauma porn. It's very trauma porny, and I think that us as trans people need something more brighter than that. I don't want to see us always struggling on TV. We struggle in real life. Can I see me in outer space, girl? Can I see me live in some fantasy?
I want to see you on Star Trek.
Oh my God, I'd love to be on Star Trek or Star Wars, any of the stars. Put me in the stars, girl.
Yeah, any kind of star show.
That's why this image is so powerful, because this is us like not just hearing about us being murdered and abused and trafficked into sex work, and
Yeah. I love the image. I love the cover. She just looks so like confident and
rich,
like grounded and rich. Yeah.
Rich. Happy. Untouchable.
I feel guilty because I haven't finished even the second season of Pose.
Oh my God.
Really? I think I talked about, yeah. I'm bad, but it's mostly because I was trying to watch it during the Trump administration, and I was just too depressed, and it's already a pretty heavy show.
Yeah.
I started watching it again. I'm
Just-
like, I picked up where I left off, and it's already sad.
Yeah.
There's a death, and I'm like, this is too familiar.
Oh, that's sad. That was so sad.
Yeah, and also like just too familiar. I'm like, oh god, this is fucked up. But that said, I don't know. I think Pose is so amazing. I was also talking to my friend, and I was saying like Pose feels like it's from the future to me. Like I feel like we got it like 10 years before it, like,
I think
you know.
I can relate. I feel, and the funny thing is, it's set back in what, the 80s, right?
Yeah, it's back in time, but it also feels like
It
I mean,
feels because it's the only thing on TV like it. Like we don't have. Well, I mean, now we have. There, I'm hearing of shows like Veneno, and um, I think there's a maybe another show coming out, and I just heard MJ Rodriguez from Pose is teaming up with Maya Rudolph.
Maya Rudolph. Yeah.
They're coming out with a show.
For a comedy. And when I heard that, I was like, okay, like
Right.
MJ, show me your comedy chops. Like
Dylan's like,
you haven't. I'm like, I'm a little upset, you know. I know you can act. I know you can do drama, great, but comedy too. Now I'm very intimidated, you know.
Right. So I think it feels like it's from the future because we don't have anything like it now, and it just seems like it's before its time.
Yeah. Also, just like having a whole like trans women writing it and directing it and acting in it. Like I'm like, how did this happen? It's like it's amazing.
Years in it.
Yeah, I'm like, this feels like it should air like 10 years from now or something. And
Yeah.
I hope we'll get more of this again. I'm sad that it's ending. I think it will happen. You know, it's cool that they got to like set the standard so early. What it feels like early to me. You know, I didn't
Yeah.
expect to see this until way later. I don't know.
There's a lot that I feel like I didn't expect to see, just as being able to apply to any other job like anyone else. You know, I don't know.
That too.
But yeah.
I purposefully moved to San Francisco to come out during the Obama administration because and I was like, am I overreacting? Like, is this too much? And then Trump got elected, and I was like, I'm right where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just like, as you know, for feeling safe and in a city that would support me and in a job that
Where were
had
you
like
before San Francisco?
I was living at my parents' house. I was just like mega depressed,
Which
like
is
figuring out transition stuff, stealing magazines from doctors' offices.
right. Where's your parents' house?
Oh yeah, they live in Gilroy.
Oh,
So SoCal, very rural. That's where I'm from.
Yeah. That's why. Okay. Well, you know, very straight living in.
It sort of feels like living in the Midwest. Like a lot of my high school friends got married to their high school sweethearts and had kids.
Yeah, a lot of my
You know.
a lot of my high school friends have kids now too.
Same with you.
It's the age we're getting old.
We are getting old. Wait, where are you from again?
I'm from here in San Francisco, but I did move. I moved for high school to Sacramento,
I see.
and then as soon as I was done with that, I was like,
Going home. Going
get
home.
back to San Francisco. Came back, and here I am.
Sick. Another thing I wanted to talk about with this was I feel like in a lot of the activism work and like movements that we've seen during the Trump administration, there's been all of this sort of like, oh, this was started by like Black women, like with a lot of like the voting stuff in Georgia, with some of the like union stuff with Amazon.
Yeah.
And I can't think of a third example, but it seems like a lot of it is like, you know, other people will get credit, and then it's like, actually, like, this is who started it. And I feel like in the trans community that has been like highlighted more, hopefully, than in other communities. Like I feel like for me, I'm like it's so like clear that
Yeah,
like I have everything to owe to like Black trans women, you know,
even in the gay community, Black trans women
even
started.
in the whole gay community. Yeah, right.
Um,
Uh, and I don't know. I hope that other trans people recognize that and feel that.
I hope all people recognize
I
it.
hope. Yeah, you're right
It's,
too.
it's such a mess to see. Like I remember. So for those of you who don't know, it was a Black trans woman who started the riot at Stonewall, that started the movement for the gay folks, girl. And and I don't know if you remember that Stonewall movie that came out later, so with an all white cast.
I,
How?
I just saw I just saw the trailer and I was like, this is a mess. What
I
is going on?
watched that shit. I was like, I saw the trailer too, and everyone. I was like, I can't, I
Yeah,
can't.
yeah, yeah. I
But
think that I think that the drunk history episode did a better job than the whole
what
movie.
is it?
Have you heard of drunk history? It's like they get someone drunk and then they recount like an historical event, and then they sort of like people reenact it like sort of according to their like drunk like memory. It's like a comedy show, but also they did a better job than the actual movie about
Wow,
Stonewall.
that sounds
Yeah, yeah,
terrible. That's but fun to watch, I'm sure.
yeah. Yeah, it's silly. But yeah, I don't know if that makes sense, but I feel like I keep seeing that in like different activist movements that have happened in the last. I mean, that they've probably been going on for a long time, but
Yeah, I
you
don't
know,
understand how it's just so easy to sweep people's work under the rug. And, but it's done all the time.
yeah.
I'm not even,
Um,
it
we
hits a
get,
little too close to home for me. I'm not gonna go there. um, but yeah, it happens all the time.
yeah. Can I ask you like how do you feel like about yourself 7 years later since this came out? Like,
Um, since this is what, 6 years ago now, 7 years ago now.
yeah, 2014.
Um, we've had we've had what, one other trans person, and it's the first um, trans masculine person on the magazine. Um, Other than that, we're not really on too many magazines. So I mean, it's just like a moment in time thing. It makes me think like, when will this be normal? When will this be frequent? When will this be something that's just like, oh, okay, it's another one of us, you know?
Pearl on the cast of Star Trek.
Or someone.
um, I think it meant more like how do you remember where you were at emotionally and uh when this came out, and like can you compare that to like now, because I know now
Yeah.
you're so confident, so upfront. I don't know, maybe you were always like that, or like was it different then? Like how do you think like you've evolved over time, you know?
So when this came out, I definitely I was definitely, I mean, I'm always trying to figure myself out, to be honest. But
You know,
at
same.
this point, like, there was a battle. There was a constant battle in my head. Um, and any moment I was alone, the shower, anywhere, I would think, okay, when am I going to do this? Am I going to do this? Is this right? Or I kept asking myself if it, what if it's wrong? Because I feel like that's how we're conditioned. Like, what if it's wrong? What if you regret it later? What if it's just a phase,
Mhm.
girl? Um, and it wasn't until a few years after this I started asking myself the right questions, which was, what if this is right? And I just feel like at that point, like I just knew that that's what I needed to get started, because I'm getting old, for one, and um, I owe it to myself to be happy. with how I present myself to the world.
Totally. Did your sense of confidence like
So
appear
it
like
took a
what?
while. It
Uh-huh.
took a while. It took some therapy. It took some work. It took some work. Um, and um, and I, am now able to go outside, not worried about myself hating myself, you know,
Yeah.
not worried about
That,
myself being
that,
uncomfortable
that
with myself.
that's such a huge thing. It's like
Yeah,
not hating yourself. Because
yeah.
I've
And
been there.
you really, once you stop doing things for other people, is what I took, is when, and you start doing things for yourself is when you'll truly be the happiest. Um, and I think that's where I'm at now versus then. Then I was still, trying to fit comfortably while kind of sort of pushing who I wanted to be. And now I'm there. I mean, I still got some work to do. I'm not saying that, but I'm happy now. I
And
am
you
happy.
love yourself.
Sitting in myself. I am. Um, I'm able to embrace myself. I'm able to look in the mirror and feel my oats, girl.
Oh yeah.
Uh, and I wasn't there before. Uh,
Yeah, similar. I remember just being so scared when this magazine came out and like so in the closet, and I don't know, it's just like gradually like year by year got better, and I don't know when it like really clicked, but I mean I was still like trying to you can still trying to like hide myself a lot or like shield myself like for many years after. Um or sort of just like really focus on security and like how can I be as secure as possible, like financially and with health insurance and like where I live, and like letting that guide my life sort of, which sort of like led to like sort of a, I guess, like myopic, like insular thinking. um and then it honestly wasn't until I started doing comedy that I feel like I was able to like really just push out of that and like be just like unapologetic on stage and self-possessed. I don't totally know when that happened.
I
Go
want to
ahead.
ask a question about that. You said that you were very scared and in the closet, when you first started, which I totally relate can understand. Do you feel like you still feel scared in other ways now? Because I
S-
do.
certain ways, like I'm always like checking my what's it called, my sixth, um or just like having like a heightened sense of awareness like whenever I'm out, kind of. um I don't know, stuff like that. Although I mean, after the pandemic, I've been inside so much, that. But as I'm like getting back out there, I'm still like I gotta like check up on my shoulder and like you know,
Yeah, it's very
it's like where I live now is like pretty residential and like pretty quiet, but I still have like my like living in this in the city like guards up where I'm
yeah.
like, well, I like it's normal for me to try to get inside my house as quickly as possible. um just like little stuff like that, or
What do you
like
do when someone approaches you and like is trying to flirt?
uh honestly, this might sound weird, but it barely has ever happened. It's only happened like a handful of times in my life.
I'm not buying it, but
I
okay.
don't I don't know. I think I give out this like vibe that's just like don't talk to me. Um a lot of the times. Um or the thing is, when I do perform comedy, I people know that I'm trans because it's all I talk about on stage. And so I feel a little safer because I most people that are approaching me are like no and are this sounds sort of sad. Like I'm like, are you already know what my deal is? And most people are like approaching me with like enthusiasm. Um but I don't know. I'm still like weirded out. I'm still like I don't know what's gonna happen. And also with like all the Asian hate crimes that have happened that
Yeah.
seem like totally like random. Um, or I'm like, I don't know who to trust or like, like walking down the street. So,
Uh,
but I try not to let it, I don't know, like guide me or, I'm like, well, I'm nothing will stop me from like going to eat a burrito.
right.
So, because I'm a tourist, so nothing gets between me and food. No amount of fear will stop me from like entering any establishment to eat.
I
So
love that. I am here for that. It's
wait,
scary.
what's your sign? I don't know it.
I'm an Aries. I'm
Oh
an
shit! I
what is
see.
it?
I feel it. I feel it in the performance.
You know. Um, but it's still very like it's scary in a different way for me now than prior. Like prior, it was scary in the way that like I might not get a chance to live my life the way that I want to. And now it's like it's scary in the sense that it can be taken away from me. Like it's terrifying having random men come up to me to try to flirt with me, and I'm just like trying to get to wherever the hell I'm going. And for those of you who don't know, it's terrifying because as soon as they I don't want it to be a violent situation as soon as they find out what it is that they came up to flirt with, um, or who it is, whatever. And that's the reality for a lot of um, trans women, I guess. It can still be very scary because some people don't know how to act.
Totally, and it sucks because it's like all put on you instead of, you know,
I'm not even trying to get your attention. I'm trying to go to work
you're trying to get a burrito.
or get a burrito. Let me get my burrito. Yeah.
That's your goal, and now you got to deal with this whole other thing.
Right.
Um,
So it's scary in a different way. Um,
yeah. Also, I think I don't know. Sometimes I worry about being so public, like being like publicly, openly trans on the internet, because I'm like, am I being too cavalier with this? Is this like, I don't know. It makes me like worry. I don't know. Sometimes worried, like, am I putting too much out there, or are people like gonna try to come find me or something, or like who's gonna show up at a show? Like
for me, that's what keeps me safe because at least I know that everyone who does see like my social media and stuff, they know what's
mhm,
going on. You know,
yeah.
I'm not hiding from nobody. Um,
Yeah, I mean, the people who follow me are all wonderful and supportive, but I'm also wondering, like, if there's someone who's like transphobic or hates trans people, and
well,
I'm like out there telling
yeah.
people where and when I'll be, you know, like,
I mean, yeah. Hopefully, you have people that love you surrounding you. Um, but I'm not. I'm definitely not here for that. If you're gonna try to come and stalk me, I will come outside. Okay, I will come outside. But
ready to throw some hands.
but anyway,
Um,
back to the image. So we have another image for you. Annie, do you want to show us the next image? Yes. So this came out March of this year. Pandemic, but still very empowering, incredible. First trans mask person in Time Magazine. I think. Well, I guess not the first trans mask person on the cover of a magazine, but on the cover of Time. Where were you when this happened?
uh, I was just this is like March. I think I was probably just in my room living my pandemic life,
Yeah,
and
same,
I think I saw it on Instagram first when he came out.
same.
And being like, oh shit. Well, my first thought was like, who the fuck is Elliot? I don't follow an Elliot because he had changed um
His name on
his
the.
handle. Yeah. So I was like, who is this? And then I read it and I was like, oh, how sweet. Um,
So moving, right? Like I remember when they first came out, to being attracted to women. And then I was like, cool, another member of the community. We got more representation. And then he came out again, and I was like, yes.
Maybe one of us.
Yeah.
Um,
Another one of us out there.
yeah.
I love it because, well, I think it's really difficult for trans people to get into Hollywood and to the mainstream, and it's almost like infiltrating to come in as a cis person and then pop the transition on them, and it's like, boom, you can't kick me out now. I'm already here. What do you do about it?
Yeah, I
Uh,
love that.
but I mean, it's obviously not as powerful as Laverne, who came in like, this is what I am, this is what you're gonna get. But it's still sickening though. I still live for it.
Oh yeah, I do too. It's also funny, like being on the other side of all of this trans stuff and all of like transitioning, where I feel a lot of like warmth and like care, and like I want to protect him,
Yeah.
whereas like with Laverne, I'm just like, oh, like I feel like I'm just like looking up at like an angel or something, like I want to be like you. And now I feel like I'm on the other side where I'm like, I need to protect you at little Elliot.
Right. But the thing is, we need to protect all of us.
I do, definitely.
Can,
Just I mean, my internal world of like oh, I like things really have changed, and like how I see these images.
and hopefully they keep changing for the better.
Right.
There is one thing that I did want to bring up. Can we get the next photo of both side by side? Now, both beautiful individuals. I love them both. But I am ready to start seeing unconventionally attractive, like trans people who are not cis blending on Time Magazine and on magazines like this, because that is those are the trans people that are targeted the most. Those are the trans people who don't, get as many opportunities, and who are kicked out of bathrooms and stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like that should have happened already. Between these two, we should have a third one in the middle.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I want to see us in like all the ways that we are,
Right. There's so many different types of trans people that even I'm, still learning about. Like, I am considered a binary trans woman. I think we both are. And not too long ago, I met a trans person who, well, I mean, in San Francisco, you meet all kinds of trans people,
Yes.
But I met a trans woman or a trans person who wanted to present femme, but still be very hairy and, keep that part of them. Like, where are those people? Where's their representation? Like, this isn't the only thing this isn't all that we are. We're so much more than this. And I think once more different types of us are represented, that's when we will start to see, I think, better protections and better laws in our systems to protect us, hopefully.
Yeah. In a lot of ways, these two images feel like little like islands that have like poked through the surface amongst like a sea of transness.
Yeah.
And this is just like what the cis people see above the surface. And we're all down there swimming around.
Right.
And yeah, in all of our like variety. I don't know, but so exciting. I don't know. I didn't get to read the Elliot Page article.
I haven't either.
Also, I haven't watched the interview. I'm upset that it's on Apple TV. I'm like, what the fuck? Put it on YouTube so everyone can watch it.
The interview that she's talking about is the one with Oprah.
Oprah.
which Dylan was the one to tell me that it wasn't in person.
I know that's also a weird feat, is that they're not in the same room.
I love, like, that's kind of sickening. Like, I want to be able to do shows with like my
Mhm.
shows
Yeah,
with like other artists, and not really have them there. That's incredible. But Oprah got that money though, you know.
right, right.
Oprah,
Oprah has that real life Star Trek money.
right? She, that woman, she could do anything she wanted to
Like, oh
do.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll get a hologram in there. See, no problem. Um, huh. I'm trying to think what else, where to go from here. I went through most of my questions. We can just like open end it now.
Yeah, I think the more that we see stuff like this, the better. Like this, it's funny that we have shows on Pose and TV where we're like, it's on TV where we see like the sad of our lives, but it's, I love that in the real life we're starting to live that fantasy.
Yeah. I I was also thinking about um I don't know, it's so nice to have a good one in Elliot. um, I don't know. There's another famous white trans woman who I don't want to name,
Uh,
but what a tragedy in so many ways.
the one who's running for office, girl.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I thought that was a joke. What's really,
And but
I
it's
was
like it's so nice. What I'm saying is it's so nice to see Elliot who
it's
just seems
a trans person who has got their head on right. Yeah.
right, and who just seems like to know what's going on and like understands the community and like
Do you
where.
think, do you think that's because Elliot was part of the LGBT community prior to transitioning? Because Caitlyn, I said
It's okay.
Voldemort, uh, wasn't in the community prior to transitioning. Um,
Yeah, that could be a part of it. Um,
but also, you were a straight person
I,
prior to
I
trans.
was. I definitely was. I didn't know any trans people. No, I knew one trans person um before I came out. I was in a band and one of the singers was a trans woman. And
Oh,
she was the first person I came out to.
oh my God. Are you still, I'm sure you guys are still in touch.
We are, yeah, yeah, yeah. She lives in a different state though, but we'll see each other every once in a while.
That is, that's really cool.
Yeah.
What was it like entering our community? um, once you,
um, yeah. Uh, you know, I feel like a lot of transition was in a bubble. And it wasn't until like a few years in where I was like, oh, I have a lot of experience in this. I made a lot of effort to like meet other trans women and especially Asian trans women. And go to like events and show up at rallies and stuff and connect with people and to like varying degrees of success, like a lot
yeah,
of times I would like I would be on the dating apps and just if anyone was trans, I would swipe right and let's hang out as a date or as like a friend as friendship. But a lot of times there was like little to connect on besides being trans.
yeah.
I think I mentioned this hot take, speaking of hot takes, about San Francisco and how many like trans women are just super nerdy and into coding and kind of awkward, which, God bless them, but God bless you. But I find it hard to connect with them a lot of the times because, I'm a creative person, I'm social and I like having fun. And
Yeah,
so yeah, it's sort of like, depends, it's like been a journey of like finding the right people and
that's interesting. Most of like the trans women that I've found or have came into contact with are very, I would love to meet the ones that you've met because the ones that I've met are very like designer handbag,
oh, rich bitch.
trends, very like very ultra super high femme Barbie. And well, I love those things when I'm on stage. I'm a gamer. I like to shoot people on video games. I like to, I like comic books. I love cosplay. Um,
I love that too. I love that. I love those things too. And I love that about you. It's so fun. I love like your Storm cosplay is one of my favorites, especially the like classic like
the,
X-Men look.
the 70s one or uh
I might be thinking of the 90s one. They're both great. They're both amazing.
Storm is one of my all-time favorite characters, so I knew that when I did decide to do her, I just had to do her right. It took
Right?
me a while, but did it.
To find the pieces. Did you make the costume or like how do you do it?
So one of them I had made. Another one is honestly just pieced together. Um, but yeah, I have one of my friends here. This girl who does most, if not almost all of my costumes, is it's another trans girl, and she is an incredible designer and designs like all the costumes for most of the queens out here. And it actually does, she creates some costumes for some of the drag race queens too.
That's amazing.
Yeah, very incredible. But
Pro.
yeah, so she's made one of my Storm costumes and another one I just pieced together because I'm good at styling.
There's something I wanted to go back to, which is talking about being like binary trans,
Yeah.
I guess. Because
Right.
this is something I've been like figuring out. I started using she, they pronouns, which is it's not of my thing, but not of my thing right now. But I don't know if you felt this, but I put so much effort into like, serving fish and being really passable and um making that like my goal.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, I felt like I don't know if I'm like I feel totally like, one gender or the other after all this. Like,
Well, yeah. I mean,
and a lot of it, like for me, is like
I think
was also
about
security and safety,
right. You have to think about like how we've been programmed to want to be passing and why. Uh,
Yeah.
and I think for me, it's mostly been for safety, so I can obtain a job without being just easily discriminated against based off of how I look,
Yeah.
or being able to walk and travel certain places without being harassed because I'm visibly different. But it's painful to say that though because I don't want it to sound like um, I did that purely for safety and I was unhappy with the way that I looked um, prior to medically transitioning. I The thing is, I also did it because I wanted to change how I looked because I am a performer and I'm on stage and I like to get into my vanity a little bit, um,
I understand that.
vanity, and um, so that's kind of why I've done it. But for the most part, it's because of safety, and I think that once we start changing physical things, how we look, like as far as getting facial feminization and you know breast augmentation, and when you start doing stuff like that, like you really, well, I mean, you luckily, you've been a lucky bird, but like that's when it really started to hit me because you go through like this grieving process um of why you're doing it. And like yeah, I had a face like when I got my face done, it was what 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So I was in my 30s. I was 30 at least, and that means my previous face is what got me through 30 years of my life, um, and my previous body is what got me through 30 years of my life. But I have, now that I'm able to embrace who I am, I want to, it's hard. It's hard to,
Celebrate it and also have it a moment of like grieving.
exactly.
kind of combination, and also the combination of, yeah, of like past, like doing things to make yourself happy, and then also, I don't know, I don't want to use the word like, yeah, just for security.
Yeah.
So it's so complicated, and I think when I see people that are more fluid and that are out there, I guess, like sometimes people use the term like visibly trans.
Yeah.
I'm so proud and excited, I'm like, that is so cool that it's just like,
It's freeing, it's liberating,
yeah, or it almost feels like I'm gonna like just bend the minds of cis people instead of
Right.
Change things more about myself. But not that there's a right or wrong way to do either. It's
And
all, and it also feels like also like a time thing. Like when we started, it was so much more unsafe like 7 years ago.
which is exactly why I think we need people that are not as cis passing like Laverne and Elliot to be on magazines like this, because then um then it becomes safer for all of us.
Right.
And
Definitely.
and then you have less of us feeling like they need to go and get surgeries for their safety.
Yeah.
Surgery is not a walk in the park, honey.
Yeah, I
Pretty
know.
difficult.
Totally. One
But
thing what? Yeah.
but don't let that pain stop you from doing what you need to do. Go out there and do you.
Yeah. Absolutely. Like no judgment. I get it. I wanted to get every surgery in the book when I first started, and then so landed on none of them. I don't know what it's so complicated, but support everyone. However you want to be, however you want to change your body. I think it's all good.
As long as you're able to fill your fantasy in it, do it, girls. Do it.
One of the last things I want to ask you about is just like being, I know we're both like multiracial, and what a weird time. But also I think like in the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, I just have like loved connecting with other like multiracial people. Like they feel like they're my family in like a different way than trans people, where I'm like, you get it, like,
or even other full-blooded
yeah
people. We don't have much time, so I'm going to try to go really fast. But I think one thing I will say is, especially during the pandemic, we've gone through some stuff. And,
we have
like the Black Lives Matter movement, and then we have Stop Asian Hate going on. And at the end of the day, I think we just need to say end white supremacy. And
hell yeah.
I think that that is how that's as quick as I can. As quick as I can.
Do we have the half hour after this? Annie, can you tell us in the chat? I wasn't sure if we have to end on the hour or
I didn't know.
Hour and a half. Now Sharap is good, is what they're saying. Yeah. Cool. This was so fun. I love talking to you.
Yeah.
Hopefully this will be, I don't know, informative and fun.
Yeah.
What's that?
Your computer was cutting out a little bit. But yeah.
Am I back? I'm back. Okay.
And that white supremacy, girl. And
yeah, that's a great way to end it.
Embrace all trans people, whether they look like this or not.
Totally. Yeah, this is so great. Like I said, I love talking to you. I appreciate that you wanted to do this together. And I hope I can see you IRL again.
Right. When I come down to LA, I will definitely let you know.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll both be doing our own kinds of shows soon.
Right. Oh,
thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Bye everyone. This is so fun. Thank you so much.